Welcome to the Real Joe Show. This episode, we're delighted to have Cassondra Liles on the show. We're going to be talking about short-term rentals. Cassondra is an accredited investor and realtor, and we're going to jump right in and welcome Cassondra.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate you.
This is fantastic. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah.
My first introduction with you was you did a presentation on short-term rentals, and it was fantastic. I want to share it.
Appreciate it.
So before we get into that, give me a quick background. How long you've been in real estate and how'd you get to where you are?
I got my license in 2001. I've been full-time ever since. I've sold over 2,000 homes, mainly in the South Wake, Johnston County area. And a couple years ago, I purchased my first property that was going to be a long-term investment, and then it became a short-term investment, and it snowballed from there. And now I have a great passion for real estate investing, and I'm learning as much as I can, actually writing a book about all the mistakes I've made, and hoping to bring other people along for the journey because it's a super, super exciting way to build wealth.
It is. That's awesome. I'm looking forward to digging into the details.
Yeah.
What happened between long-term and short-term? What made that transition?
So it was always my plan, if I was in a financial position to do it, I have 3 children, when they went to college, to buy them a little townhouse, condo, something that they could live in their 4 years of college, where the 3 years after you have to live on campus the first year. And then they could sell it when they were done with college. They could rent it out, or just a little nest egg. Like, I've done my part, move on. I bought you a car, I bought you a little house. However, the house I bought in Greenville, that my son goes to East Carolina University, I ended up buying an historic home that was 100 years old because location was great. And I fell in love with it. And I thought, man, I'm not letting these 19-year-old kids move into this super cool house. So that became a short-term rental, and it was killing it, gangbusters. So then I bought another in Wilmington, bought another in Greenville, and now I'm in the process of buying 2 in West Jefferson. So in the last 18 months, I will have 5 short-term rentals under my belt. And people say, how are you paying for that? And I can tell you how you pay for it. I don't have a money tree out back. There's a lot of resources that people don't know about. And then I bought my son a house, a little shotgun house in Greenville. That's a long-term rental. So I've been able to buy 6 houses in the last about 2 years.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. But let's I want to turn up the volume here for a second. Let's talk about the locations. You're all over the map. How do you determine what's a good spot for a short-term rental?
So you want it to be in a location that people vacation places. So my Wilmington house is in a vacation place. However, the Greenville house is probably the best producing house. And that is because parents are coming in town all year round to visit their children at East Carolina University. They're coming to tour the school. They're coming, alumni are coming back for football, baseball, basketball games. There's also a teaching college there. The university is associated with a teaching hospital with the hospital. So there's always nurses coming in and out on rotation. Greenville and Greensboro, I believe, are the 2 places that have teaching hospitals. Great locations for short-term or mid-term rentals.
That's a fantastic idea.
Yeah.
Do they look for, I've actually rented, I had a little background in doing some short terms as well. And I know nursing and the consumer in general is looking for certain amenities. When you're looking at the home, do you look for certain details that are going to appease your clients?
For sure. The highest returning rentals have 4 bedrooms. I have 3 bedrooms in mine just because the location was so good. I couldn't turn down the property. It's just 1 block off of the downtown area where you just walk into all the coffee shops and restaurants and so forth. So, a mistake I made is I will never buy a house again that doesn't have a driveway. Driveways, I think, are super important. My house in Wilmington has street parking. There's nothing more annoying than coming to unload my car and I can't park in front of my own house. Mistake right. I made. You definitely want it to have not a lot of stairs. I found that they rent better if it's not, super, super high off the ground. Location is everything. A view, water view, mountain view. Those are slam dunks. You got to think about, what do you want in a property? If I'm going to go stay in a short-term rental, what can I not get at home? Does it have a hot tub? Is it in a great location? Like I said, in views.
What about on, you mentioned hot tub.
Yeah.
Sounds maintenance heavy.
Say again?
It sounds maintenance heavy. Like, how do you maintain that? How do you, if you have a pool or a hot tub, how do you make sure that that's being treated and taken care of?
Regardless of what amenities you have in the house, you have to have a good crew. You either have to have a property manager that manages the whole kit and caboodle for you, or you have to have, and I don't have any property managers. I manage all of mine myself. But I have a great handyman. Your cleaner is everything. They're the eyes on the house. They're the ones who can tell you if the guests were good guests, not good guests. If they trashed the place, if they stole something. And then you have to have a handyman and a cleaner and a landscaper just locked down. And you need a backup person in case those people are on vacation or, just fall apart on you. So they'll maintain everything for you if you pay them well and take good care of them.
Okay, so let's talk about, well, you brought up two questions. First one is your clients. How do you vet? Especially by the colleges, you get people come back for a game. You don't know typically who's going to be in there, how rowdy they're going to be, what to expect. How do you manage that?
So I have that you have to be 25 or older. The primary guest has to be 25 or older to book my properties. Okay. Now, I know in my late 20s, I was still having a good time when I was going places. So that doesn't mean they're not going to get in there and party. But I don't let 18-year-olds rent my places. I also have a very clear set of rules. No spray tanning in my places. I learned that lesson the hard way. Somebody spray tanned all over my bathroom and it was orange everywhere. No glitter. Things that you learn the hard way. Getting glitter out of carpet is a fun event if you've ever tried to do it. So my rules are posted up front of what you can and can't do on my property. They are sent out after they book again. And I'm just very clear on what you're allowed to do and not do. I also have cameras in the front and back of my houses, none inside. And I check them every now and then. I've checked people bringing pets in that they didn't ask if they could bring pets. So, there's just ways, there's noise machines you can put in the house. If the volume in the house gets above certain decibels, it will send you a notice that, something fell or there's a party going on. There's lots of ways to checks and balances.
And how do you manage that when you find something that's going sideways? What do you do?
I first reach out to the people and say, hey, what's going on? Seek first to understand. And I say, is you just having a few people over? Are we, throwing a rager over there? The neighbors will tell on you real quick. Be friendly with the neighbors for all of your properties because they're good eyes and ears for you. But I just call them and I say, what's going on? I have their contact information. And if it is something that we can't work out, then I will escalate it to Airbnb or VRBO. I hardly ever do off-site bookings because there are some protections in place if you go through those channels.
Ah, okay. So you rely on the system, the services that are out there.
I do.
To book your places.
Yeah.
And is that just because of the benefits that they have, or is it ease of use? What are some of the other benefits you get from that?
Both. They have the largest amount of people that are out there looking for properties. If I post on my Facebook page, I've got 1,200, 1,500 friends. That's not the biggest audience. They've got millions of people looking every day for their properties. So I just go with, it's a tried and true system. I'm not trying to recreate the wheel. I don't mind paying them 5% to be the middleman. Yeah.
Okay, so it's worth the value.
I think
the value. It's worth the price. Cool. Have you tried doing it on your own?
I've booked off platform with friends and family and so forth, but I'm really not interested in building a website and doing the SEO and funneling the people in. I got other things to do.
Yeah, and I imagine the competition would be ridiculous against Airbnb and VRBO, right?
Yeah. Bookings.com. Yeah.
Yeah. What's the other one?
Bookings.com is probably Airbnb is the big daddy. VRBO is second, and then Bookings.com is probably third.
And you post in all three?
I do.
Okay, cool. You mentioned something else and it escaped me for the moment. So let's jump into when you're purchasing, when you're looking for the property, zoning. And I know that's important. How do you uncover whether or not it's allowed?
Before I even make an offer, I'm definitely checking the covenants for short-term rentals. Most new construction communities, you're automatically out. New construction almost never is going to allow short-term rentals. I'm looking at the condo and HOA restrictions. Most of them say no rentals under 30 days. Over 30 days generally allowed. Not only that, I'm looking at cap rates. Are there a certain, if they allow it, are there a certain amount already in there that they've just maxed out? You got to look at city ordinances. Lots of cities are putting New York City. They just shut all the short-term rentals down in New York City. Not only have to look at what's on the books, but you have to research what's coming down the pike, what's being discussed. So that is a big part of choosing the property. I think in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, there are only 10 neighborhoods in the entire city that will allow short-term rentals. So, you really have to vet that.
And how does somebody, where do you go to find that information?
Well, hopefully you're using a realtor. You're calling me, you're calling you. If not, you go to the homeowners association or you go to the city planning department.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
And using a local realtor. What else? A local realtor knows that stuff, it's important to have a local realtor. Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
And you can call me if somebody needs one.
Right.
I'm not one. I can help them out. I can find somebody. Looking at a property, what else do you consider driving? You mentioned a bunch of details already. Anything else that when you're looking at evaluating the opportunity, how do you determine rent rates and the purchase price?
So purchase price is, you're getting market rate. I mean, that's just, I don't buy anything over 300,000. That's just my choice. I like detached homes under 300,000. It's just my preference. Market rate, there's lots of tools out there, AirDNA, Price Labs. You can look at these online sites and they will actually formulate what's the average days. So my first property in Greenville, that first year only rented 38% of the time, which is a very low number. But it netted $26,000 that year. So you don't need something that's renting 100% of the time, and you probably don't want something that's renting 100% of the time, especially if you want to stay in it sometimes. If you're buying a property in the mountains or beach or lake that you want as a second home, but you want to also pick up some income, you don't want to constantly rent it. I mean, you can block dates out, but and there's also a lot more wear and tear on your property that's rented 100% of the time. So 38% wasn't bad for me. I could scoot down there on the weekends, and I was also making money on it. But there's tools out there to help you to help analyze what the average days it's going to rent per month and what will rent per night. There's also tools out there, which I love this. The AirDNA will do this. It'll fluctuate the price per night based on what's going on in the area. So a night there's a big football game in town at ECU, my rates are through the roof. I don't even have to follow this. If there's nothing going on in town, my rates are lower. So when there's a big football game going on and I'm going to the game, I don't even stay at my own house. I stay in a hotel because I'm making more money off of my house than I am off of the than staying at the hotel. So there's tools out there that will formulate all of this for you.
Now, are those tools embedded in the services, the websites you're using, or is that something?
No, they're third party.
Yeah. Third party. So you monitor what's going on. You set the price.
I don't set the price. I set a baseline price that I won't go below, but they will actually fluctuate the price based on what's going on in the area. A concert in town, a big festival, something like that.
Okay, so they're plugged into the VRBO,
yes.
and they adjust it based on what's going on in the area.
Correct.
So how do you determine? So do you go to those sites to look at what's renting on a regular basis when you're going to purchase something in those areas to figure out what the rates are?
I do. I go and you want to see if a market's saturated too. If there's just way too many houses on the market, they're not renting well. You got to look at a lot of factors up front. There's a whole, kind of short-term rental analysis that you need to do. I think I told you earlier, I'm writing a book. I'm doing a whole section on how to do this. But it's really important, and you really need a local expert. You really need a realtor to help you pull all this data together. Little difficult to do on your own.
Yeah, I bet. And what happens? You get town ordinance changes. Are you set up to maintain them as long-term rentals, or would you prefer to sell them on?
It depends. Yeah, I mean that's a tricky question. I mean, you could convert them to midterm rentals, which is something that not a lot of people are doing. A short-term rental is defined by a rental span of 1 to 30 days. Midterm's 31 days to 6 months, and 6 months plus is long-term. So that midterm rental market is a really sweet market. The people that are drawn to that market are nurses. Traveling nurses are desperate for places that they can stay. Professionals that are in town working for a couple of months. Pilots that they'll rent these places. They'll kind of all bunk up together. If it's a base. Construction industry. So this midterm rental market is a sweet market. A long-term rental will rent for a certain rate, say $1,000 a month. A midterm rental will rent for 2 to 3 times what a long-term rental will bring in. And then a short-term rental generally brings in about 3 to 5 times what a long-term rental will bring in. So that midterm rental is a sweet spot if you end up not being able to short-term rental that property.
Nice. One of the things that impressed me in your presentation was the amount of detail you have in what's inside your homes. And can you speak to that as far as if somebody they find the house, they're ready to rent, what are some of the things that should be considered when stocking it, putting the furniture in, things of that nature?
So I tell everybody, do not decorate your rental like the way you decorate your home. You don't want all the fluffy pillows. You don't want the tufted headboard. You don't want the shag rugs. You need things that are going to wear well. All mine have leather couches because I allow pets. And so I'm going to bring my pets to my houses. So I can't say it's a pet-free home for somebody that has allergies because my pets are going to be there. So I allow pets on all my properties. Leather couches clean up well. I don't have big fluffy comforters. I have quilts. All my headboards are wood or metal because they can be easily, wiped down. You want surfaces that are easily cleaned. You want a well-appointed kitchen. One of the big reasons they're staying at your property is they can cook 3 meals a day and not have to go out and eat 3 meals a day. Right. If they're staying for, 10, 14 days, it gets really tiresome going out and eating, all of that. You want a really nice outside space, in my opinion. I think you either need a fire pit, a nice big kind of seating area outside. That's another big draw of staying in a short-term rental over a hotel is that you have outside space. You walk right out your door, you take your pet out, you go have your morning coffee on the deck. I think you want to think about what you need in your home. You need the can opener, you need the air fryer, really good coffee pot. What you have at home, plus what are some extra nice features that you're probably not getting at home. I have a cappuccino machine at one of my properties. I get tons of feedback on that.
Nice. Yeah. Nice. And what about linens?
I have 2 sets of linens for every bed. So that way if one gets ruined, you have another one. I have a different color linen for each bed. The kings are a certain color, the queens are a certain color, the fulls and the twins. It just helps my cleaners so much. They can pull all the linens off, throw them in the washing machine. I have the second set to put on so she can get the beds made up while the wash is going on. And she's not confused of, they're all white. Which one's the twin, which one's the king? Yes, that's a little
smart. Yeah. And I remember your comment about your towels.
Oh, the big towels?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have like 72-inch towels. People love those things. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. They actually comment on it. I remember
they do. They love them. Yep. I
That's
mean,
crazy.
I'm not a small girl. You get that little towel and you go around, you're like, oh my gosh. And then you get the big one, you're like, this is great. So it's just a little thing that people love.
What are some of the hard lessons you've learned?
Oh gosh, so many hard lessons I've learned. The driveway is definitely the biggest one. I'll never buy a house without a driveway again. I will not let bachelorette parties stay anymore. Those girls get wild. They will tear your place up worse than any college kids. I've learned to only allow 1 or 2 dogs, not multiple dogs. I had 5 come one time because I said pets are allowed. That was, I didn't think that through. The glitter was a crazy one. The spray tan was a crazy one. My cleaner goes in the bathroom, says there's orange all over the bathroom. I'm like, what could be orange? What could be orange? And I reached out to the client. She's like, oh, I spray tanned in there. I'm like, oh my gosh, on everything. So those are probably the biggest hard things I've learned so far. If the HVAC unit is not is older than 10 years old, even if it's working fine, I'm going to go in and I'm going to change out the AC unit because it's going to die in the middle of the night and when it's 100 degrees out, and you're going to have an upset person. So I try to buy houses that have generally new roofs, no carpet. I don't have any carpet in any of the houses. They're all LVP floors or natural hardwoods, and newer HVAC systems.
Nice. All right, let's get into the meat. Financing. And your title, accredited investor.
Yes. So that's just a person that is able to invest in private security offerings that other people are not able to invest in. You have some criteria you have to meet, certain amount of money in the bank, certain amount of assets that you own that you can be an accredited investor. And then it opens up a level of financing that not everybody can tap into. There's lots of financing
through institutions. Are they institutions?
No, they're institutions not registered through the Exchange Commission. Yeah. So there's lots of financing. Credit union is a fantastic place. State and Police Credit Union does a lot of financing. And something I want to point out that every time I say this, people are always surprised about. You can have a primary home and then 20 second homes. So people are like, oh, I already have a second home. Well, you can have a second home at the beach, a second home at the mountain, a second home at the lake, a second home in the city. They have to generally be 50 miles apart to be considered a second home for the bank to be happy about that. There's a difference between a second home and an investment property. So your second home is a place that you intend to stay in at least 14 days a year. That can be considered a second home. And the interest rates on a second home versus an investment property are a little bit different. They're both going to be higher than your primary residence, but your investment property is going to be the highest interest rate, and your second home is going to be a little bit below that. But they're both going to be higher than your primary. So the credit union does second home. They do debt service, DSCR loans, debt service coverage ratio loans. Those are loans that are no doc loans. Basically, you have to show that you have 6 months worth of payments in the bank and 20 to 25% to put down, and they'll pretty much write you the loan as long as it covers at least 100% if what you're going to bring in. And they look at the long-term rental number. So say they say it's going to bring in $1,500 a month. As long as you can prove that you can make $1,500 a month and it's a 1% ratio, they'll fund these loans. They're great loans, super underutilized, but you have to have some cash to do these. There are, your regular mortgage loans or bankers or brokers can write these, and they do all the time. They're just not, people don't understand the options. When they go to them, they need to say, is it a second property? Is it a investment property? They say it's an investment property. Well, that's different than being a second home. You got to really kind of have a great conversation with your lender.
So when you're talking about having a second home and they're looking at your ratios, you're admitting that it's a second home, yet you're going to be renting it out. So they're looking at it as both?
Yeah, as both. It can be a second home and an investment property.
Okay.
But you have to have the rule is you have to stay in it 14 days
Yeah.
a year for it to
Yeah.
be a second home.
Right. And you being, I think a lot of people are afraid that it's a second home, and if they mention they're going to be renting it out, they might not want that long.
Nope.
Yeah, you're saying that this is actually part of the programs at the credit union.
It is, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. That's good to know. That's good.
Yeah.
Um,
So what I say to people is, you want a lake house, or you want a place at the beach, go and get that place, but have it make income, and you may even be making more money than your mortgages per month, and you've got a second place to go to.
yeah.
So another untapped source is 529s, college plans. I've been saving for each of my children to go to college since they were born. I have substantial amount of money in their college plans. Well, now that my son is living off campus, I can use that money I've already saved to pay for his housing. So I'm taking the 529 money, I'm paying his portion of the mortgage, and you can not only for housing, you can use it for utilities and for food. Self-directed IRAs is another option. IRAs that are at a company, say you're working for IBM, you have an IRA there. You can't use those, but if once you leave the company, lots of people just leave that money there because they don't know what to do with it. Those IRAs can be rolled into a self-directed IRA, and that money can be used to buy gold, to buy Bitcoin, to buy all kinds of metals, but you can also use it to buy real estate. So there's sources that I just don't think people know about or understand how to tap into to get money. I think the stat, I might get the stat wrong, but 50% of people have at least 70% of people nationwide have at least, hold on, I've got the stat in my notes. So it's either 50 or 70% equity in their house. Pull an equity line.
Right.
Pull an equity, Yeah. I'll get that stat right in a minute. But there's a lot of money sitting out there to be tapped that people just need to know how to get into it.
And what about hard money for something like this?
There are hard money lenders. It's harder to get. Being an accredited investor helps a bunch to get that money. But I've got, if your audience needs any hard money contacts, I certainly have those as well.
Would that be, and typically the interest rates and they tend to be more expensive. You see that ability to cash flow on something like that?
I mean, it all depends. The interest rate could eat you up so that the money, it really eats into your money. So you got to crunch the numbers really hard. You got to look at a lot of stuff up front. And it was really hard when the market was moving so fast, because you had to make quick decisions on buying properties, and people weren't, necessarily doing all of the research that they should have done. But now that the market slowed down a little bit, you have to look into the rules and regulations and crunch the numbers and look at the average daily rates and so forth. There's a lot of upfront research.
Nice. What about insurance? You buying it as a second home? Do they know you're renting it out as well?
You have to tell them you're renting it out. You cannot tell them it's a primary property. Please don't do that. Yes, there's short-term rental insurance, there's landlord insurance, there's lots of different insurances. If your insurance person does not act like they know about this stuff, get another insurance person. It's really important to have the right insurance in place. It's important to have an umbrella policy, in my opinion. Something will happen at your property. Somebody will get hurt at your property at some point. It's just inevitable. Somebody's going to fall down the stairs. Something's going to happen. Insurance is really important to have. When
you say umbrella policy, is that on your primary, or does that cover
all of them?
Each individual property?
Yep.
Are they all under that? How does that work?
Yes, they're all under that. Put your properties in LLCs. Every property has a separate LLC. So that gives you some level of protection, but you really, really need to get the insurance piece correct.
Nice. Great. Cool. Yeah. What else? You're writing a book. What's some of the juicier chapters, or do we cover most of it?
Oh, what else? Oh gosh. Well, I'm going through my book slides right now. Arbitrage. You know about arbitrage?
Let's go. What do you got?
Okay, that's basically a way to get into the short-term rental business and not purchase properties. The premise of arbitrage is that you long-term rent from somebody, and then you short-term rent that property. And so that person gives you permission to short-term rent. They're covering their nut. They're making exactly what they want to make for the long-term rental rate. And you're marking up because you can make 3 to 5 times the amount of money on a short-term than a long-term rental. They're marking up the weekly or weekend rates or whatever. And they didn't have to come out with the 20-25% to put down for the property. So arbitrage is an option. Wholesaling is an option. I'm sorry, did you have a question on that one?
No, I was just curious why would somebody want to rent you a house when you're renting it out and they're making more money than you are? Why would someone want to do that?
Well, because they're covering what they wanted to get out of it. And there's probably going to be a rental rate of considerably less days of somebody in that house. So the wear and tear on the house is going to be less. It's your problem also if something breaks. They're not going in there and fixing whatever's broken. It's your problem. Right. And they're generally furnishing it. So
right.
So they know they're getting what they want, and it has less days that people are occupying. It's a win for the person that owns the property. Yeah. Smart. Wholesaling. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Just, wholesaling is another option. That's where you go to somebody. Usually, it's a distressed property, and you say to them, "Hey, I want to purchase this," or you don't actually purchase the property. I'm going to find you a buyer for this property. You mark up the price that you sell the house to the buyer, and the first seller gets exactly what they want out of the house. You're making a little 5 to 10% profit off of the property. That's another way to make money as an investor and not have to put any money out.
And so is that dual closings? 2 closings?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yep. You can do the BRRRR method, the buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat, method. That's where you pay cash for a property. You fix it up, you rent it, the property for an after rehab rate. And then, you're getting the property for free because you're putting out the cash that you initially put in, because you're pulling out the cash that you initially had put in to the property in the rehab. So that's, a pretty popular thing that people are doing. I haven't done any flips at all. It's not my cup of tea. I'm trying to think of what else.
Yeah, make it look easy on TV, that's for sure.
Yeah, I've
experienced people getting into flips. Well, I don't know how experienced it is. Second or third one they might be doing, then they get the big oops where they pull up a floor, or they didn't want to pull up a floor, they have to pull up a floor, or they open up a wall and they find things that they didn't expect. So there's definitely some risks in that.
For sure.
Lots of reward too. Yeah, a lot of risks, and you might see that on HGTV or any TV show.
That's the problem. Is these shows make it look so easy. It's not easy.
Yeah, they gloss over it like it's just another, oops, and
yeah,
the numbers that they use and the time that they put into it just not realistic.
Yeah. So. Another tool that I would make sure I have a good channel manager. And by this, I mean something that syncs your calendars between all of the platforms, something that doesn't if you have something booked in VRBO, doesn't let Airbnb book that same week. So you have a double booking. I use Hospitable. There's OwnerRez, HostAway, Lodgify, Guesty. There's several of them out there. I found Hospitable for the amount of properties I have to be probably the most reasonable in price. They keep your calendar. They also do all the messaging. So if a message comes in from Airbnb or wherever, it all comes to the same inbox for me. It also does push messaging. So as soon as somebody books, a message goes out that says, "Thank you for booking my property. Your check-in date is blah, blah, blah. Your checkout dates." Well, sometimes be like, "Oh, I booked the wrong dates," and then the day before it'll say, here are some couple of details about the house. And it's of course different for every property. And then an hour before check-in, I have check out at 10 o'clock every day and check in at 3 o'clock because that gives my cleaners time to go in there. Yeah. Hour before check-in, it'll email them the code. It emails and text the code. And then the day before checkout, it sends checkout instructions. Very, very systematized there, which saves me tons of time as a self-manager. The other thing is guest books. I really, really get great feedback on my guest book. Gosh, I can't even remember who is it through. It is through TouchStay. TouchStay is who I'm using now. I've spent hours putting together list of close restaurants, coffee shops, brunch spots, nightclubs, things to do, and so forth, as well as all of my rules are on there. How to work the ice maker, because I have a countertop ice maker, how to work the cappuccino machine, all in there. And that goes out to them as a link. And they, love that. And then I also have a QR code on each of the fridges that they can scan. And it because the link only goes out to the primary. So you may have 6 people staying, but only that primary person's getting this. I have a QR code they can scan on the fridge. So everybody else has that information. That's been a really good thing to A, I look like I've really got my stuff together, and B, it just helps them a ton if they're coming to a town they don't know anything about.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Cool. Wow, Cassondra, thank you. Anything you want to add before we sign off?
No.
Well, I think there's a lot of fear in people in jumping into this, and what you're talking about now doesn't sound too complicated. To absolutely have to have the right resources, and make sure you get the right team that's working for you.
That's it.
And then when's the book coming out?
Hopefully in January. I'm working a little every day. It's a lot more than I thought it was going to be. It's yeah.
So when that comes out, let me know. We'll post it on our page.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thanks so much, Cassondra.
Thanks for having me.
And I want to talk to you when we sign off.
Okay.
All right.